Just wanted to work. Stupid filament changes. What a big, stupid, trusting jerk. Alright, I think we finished this, did we not? We were
Yes.
talking about all these different things. Fabulous. Alright, so let's move on to here. So, for instance, at the bottom bullet there, remember we talked about Three Gorges Dam. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and say, let's just ignore this one at the top here, because you don't need to write all that down. It's a bunch of writing for no reason.
The top one?
Yeah, just ignore that one. Essentially, what that's saying is that there's a whole bunch of climates that we can find in East Asia, which I'm never going to ask you to name all of the climates that we can find in East Asia, so let's just ignore that bullet, shall we? Instead, let's focus on Three Gorges Dam. Three Gorges Dam was built on the Changjiang River, or the Yangtze. And you'll find that China often has two names for most of its things. For instance, Beijing was once Peking. It was changed because it was once a British colony. Essentially, all the chief's name was the British. And anyhow, Three Gorges Dam was from this river for the purpose of generating hydroelectric electricity. The problem that came along with this is whenever you build a dam, it creates, a blockage of water, essentially a man-made lake that floods a certain area behind the dam. Well, what this caused was a massive migration of people because that's where people were living. So they had to basically you move out of your house right now because we're going to flood it. So there's this massive displacement of people and animals. Of course, the national symbol of China, the animal, is the symbol of China as well. Good guess. People think they're the panda is actually the international symbol of China. In fact, there's a number of pandas in zoos that are actually on loan from China. The idea is to try to get them to reproduce because they are an endangered species. A large portion of that is because of encroachment from human beings, basically taking over environments. One thing about pandas is, do you guys know what their principal food is, where they eat?
Pandas.
And the thing is it's really, really low in nutrients. So one panda has to basically spend all day eating before it starves to death. And that's a problem when we start encroaching on its territory because it doesn't have the resources it dies. There's a lot of other things that make pandas actually very, very susceptible to extinction. Say, a lot of flaws that they have that really they couldn't survive without human intervention. So it's kind of a weird thing. On one hand, we're responsible for pushing them to endangerment, but at the same time, without us, they would have gone endangered already. So it's this weird kind of situation. There's been a big push to breed pandas and start bringing the numbers up. What I think is kind of interesting is people forget to realize that the other half of their name, panda, bear, they are bears. And we're like, oh, they're so cute because, yes, they are. They're also vicious predators to some extent as well. Granted, they are almost exclusively vegetarian. True, but what I mean to say is that they are also, people underestimate them because of how cute they are. If that makes any sense? People do that a lot with a lot of animals, I find. Like cats, I find are the thing that a lot of people don't know. It's like cats, while cute and cuddly and all that sort of thing, maybe, are also freaking predators, and they're pretty vicious little ones at that. I've never seen them kill mice. They tend to do it in a very brutal way, so it's not exactly fun times.
Is there such thing as a red panda?
Yes. It's not a red panda, it's a different type of animal. It's a smaller cousin.
What's its name?
It's a red panda. It's its own type of animal. So there's different kinds of kangaroos, so like red kangaroos.
There is?
Yeah. There's wallaroos. They're smaller. Actually, my wife had to pet one once because they had him in the zoo at different places and giving him animal crackers.
Is there a purple tiger or something?
Yeah, there's no purple tigers. There are Andalusian leopards, which are the most endangered cat on Earth. They live predominantly, actually, in this part of Asia, for the most part, there's a giant forest, the largest forest in the world, goes all throughout here. It's in the village called the taiga, and basically that's where they live. It's been hell to try to keep them bred, and there's a lot of effort through the zoo to help bring it back.
What are they?
Amur leopards, A-M-U-R. Because of Amur. Forest or Cummings or something. I could not tell you because I don't know. I don't.
What about the US?
Although in the U.S., one of the ones that's protected, I don't think it's actually endangered anymore, which is protected as well. Maybe the timber wolf was at one point, but I'm pretty sure they're actually back up now because we hunted them basically close to extinction, not for food or that, because they're freaking pests. And we got so good at killing that we almost exterminated them, and then we kind of brought them back, and now they're a pest again. So there's kind of this balancing that goes with it. Anyways, this is the Three Gorges Dam, in case you didn't know. Anyhow, last couple of slides. But anyhow, no, I don't know right offhand. The most.
I got it.
Yeah.
Let's get us critically endangered on the IUCN Red List 2009. The Jaden Rhino Rhinoceros.
That makes sense.
Jaden Rhino?
Jaden Rhino.
That's the type of rhino. Rhinos are often hunted for their horns, just like.
There's only 60 of them.
Yeah.
Then why does it show a gorilla picture?
It's not a gorilla.
No, it was a gorilla. It was like some kind of.
It's probably just the way that it goes forward.
That's it.
See?
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
rhino.
Alright, but anyways, back to you guys. That's quite alright. But one of the things that we have to talk about with Japan is, of course, we know it's not. We don't. It's actually, to be fair, it's not an island, it's an archipelago, which is a series of islands, a chain of islands. And the thing is, it's fairly landlocked. I mean, we're not, or really sea-locked, I guess is a better word for it. I mean that there's not a whole lot of land to develop. And ever since the end of World War, actually before the Naval Restoration, they have been booming economically, growing both in population and business. And this is a problem. It's less of an issue outside of cities and rural areas, but that's not what businesses are. Businesses are in cities. And so this creates kind of an interesting problem for people living in Japan, because they need work in cities, but that means moving into areas that are more difficult, we'll say. It's a lot more expensive to live in cities like Tokyo, and the working hours are incredibly long. And so what happens to some workers is they will live in the suburbs, they will live in the country, and they will work in the city. So what they tend to do, instead of traveling back and forth, is some just basically live at their desk. It's actually seen as a sign of hard work if you work past the point where your boss does. So basically the way it works is you don't go home until your boss goes home.
Like in the intern.
Here's the issue, is that goes up the chain. So like, let's say that the head of the company leaves at 4, okay? Well, the people immediately under him don't leave till 5. People under him don't leave till 6, 7, 8, it's down to you, 9. So you've been there basically from 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, until 9 at night. Right? That's a cultural thing. There's no requirement to do that. People just do it. So it's not uncomfortable to sleep at their desk. I've even heard it seems like it's an under-desk hammock. I don't really know how that works, but whatever it does, I guess. And they just sleep there, and then they, are found the next morning by the boss. And it's like, oh, they worked so hard, they did a good job. The thing is, though, they don't actually work that whole time they're there. They work about the same amount of hours as Americans do, like in terms of actually getting work done. The rest of the time, they just basically fool around. And so what's happened is there's a high amount of pressure to stay later and later at work, but you're not really accomplishing much else. So much so that it's actually weirded out some Japanese I've known Americans who've been hired in Japanese companies, and they just go home when they're done. Like, it's 4 o'clock, I'm going home, it's late. Another Japanese company, Americans like, whatever, I'm late, it's my time to go home, because that's culturally different, you know. And so it creates this kind of interesting thing. So this begs the question, what else do we do? Well, it's also not uncommon for multiple people to rent an apartment together. It's also not uncommon for people to use what are called capsule hotels, which we're trying to say. So, I've even heard stories of people renting rooms in internet cafes that have locks essentially on the doors. So they go to this room where they have internet access and basically just sleep there. It's like, you know, that's not what it's meant for. It's really meant for people to rent internet time, you know, work, play online games, whatever, things like that, and still have a social community. That's actually huge throughout many places in the world. In fact, World of Warcraft was like tremendously large in South Korea because of that. Or StarCraft, that's like national sport. Many from South Korea. But anyhow, the other issue that they can deal with less land is actually using landfills. Essentially, you get a bunch of trash from an area, and that builds up and builds up and builds up and mixes with dirt and create essentially land you can build on. We've done the same thing in the United States with parks and things, but it's actually kind of genius. This is what a capsule hotel looks like. They're actually fairly cheap. You get each of those as a room.
Wow.
What do you mean how?
What, is he sitting on a bed?
Yeah.
How big is it? It's really small. It's just a bed in there.
Yeah, it's just a bed. That's your room. It's basically like a little coffin.
Yeah. Oh, and then, have you seen the...
Let's flip it, because you can actually see what it's like from someone's perspective inside. This guy, I think, was like 6'2" or something like that, so it's actually not as small as maybe it would look. But you've got that's the door in front of you right there. You've got a little shade to have some privacy. You've got a television in there. You've got your own climate control systems, air conditioning, that sort of thing. And, of course, radio and other things like that. So, yeah, it's a nice little setup. It's Capsule Hotel. Capsule comes from, like, those little things you have where you put like quarters in the chain for toilet or water, things like that. But they're pretty cheap. Most of them are kind of seedy. This is like it's like one of those hotels. It's like a motel. You have your strip motel where it's like, I don't know if I really want to stay here, but it's cheap. So, yeah, a little bit. Some of them are have been known for crime, drug trade, things like that. A lot of them, though, are just perfectly fine, just cheap hoteling for people who do this. Because I don't know what the translation is in terms of how much it costs, but I know it's pretty low. I think it's something like maybe $5 or $10 a night or something like that, which is pretty freaking low when you get down to it. So it has communal bathrooms and showers and things like that, so you can shower. But actually, underneath the bed is actually storage. So, like, you know, if you have a suitcase, you know, put it there and get it. So, there's a way for people to do it cheap and make use
It's
of
kind of
it.
like when I went on the cruise, it's kind of small, but it's not that small, but
Sure.
it's
You
small.
can't have more than one person.
I mean, I guess if you're really comfortable with each other, you could. I wouldn't. There's be too much farting going on. It'd be gross. Anyway, so that's that. That's fun. But yeah, that's it for the notes, guys. Seriously. We're done with location plays. Next up is region, but we'll leave that for another day. We'll go ahead and stop the recording.
You like my aviators?
Yeah, it's pretty baller.
Yeah.
Let's stop that. Time for that.